All right, so if we can call to order Harris County Improvement District Number 1, January 22nd, 2020. And our first item is to approve the minutes of the December 4th, 2019 Board of Directors meeting previously sent out, found on tab 1, page 1.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Next item is to receive comments or questions from the public. I understand no one signed up. So we are done with that item. And the next item is to review quarterly investment reports, tab 2, page 4, please. Shannon?
Okay, thank you. So we have the quarterly investment report for the reporting period of October 1st through December 31st, 2019. The first page kind of outlines all of the funds and accounts that we have and the balance and the activity in there. For our general operating fund, our primary depository is Capital One Bank. At the end of the period, we had just over $2.3 million in our operating checking account. With BBVA Compass, who's our secondary depository, we had a little over $1 million. And the certificate of deposits, the CDs that we had with BBVA expired and they were rolled into our Capital One account. So all in all, we had $3.3 million with our operating funds. For our capital projects fund, we have a little over $7 million with Capital One Bank, and we had used all of the proceeds that were invested with Regions Bank in their asset management account. Debt service, at the end of the reporting period, we had just under $500,000, so those are the balances for our three funds. The second page kind of looks at those funds that are deposits and versus investments. With BBVA Compass, we had just over $1 million, but we were sufficiently collateralized. They actually need to roll off some of those federal home loan letters of credits because our CDs expired, so that's why they're like overly collateralized there. But with Capital One Bank, our primary depository, we had sufficient collateral with FDIC insurance as well as the Fannie Mac treasuries agencies. And then with Regions Bank, again, that's an investment, but we have just a little bit of interest left in that account and closing out. The other thing for our investment policy, the officer requires 10 hours of training every 2 years. You see in this middle section, this year, 2020, John Breeding is due for investment training, and we'll get that scheduled to be in compliance, and I'll also do the training as well. That's pretty much it for this quarter. Are there questions or concerns?
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Next item, if you could take us through it, is the quarterly budget report, please, found on page 6.
Okay, thank you. The first page 6 is, it's a lot of information, but it's kind of all of our accounts for the operating fund. The second quarter, you can see kind of what the actual expenditures were versus the forecasted budget to spend. Ideally, we'd be at 100%, what we projected. If you look down to total expenditures, we're at 130%, so that's a little over what was projected to be spent for that quarter. The last 3 columns kind of looks at the budget as a whole, what we spent year to date and our total budget for the year. Again, ideally, we'd be somewhere around 50%. If you look down at the bottom, we're at 64.48%. So a little bit hot on there. We'll look at this as we go through these next quarters in the fiscal year and see, make sure that we are trying to manage as closely as we can to the budget. I do think that we'll be hot in some areas like tree maintenance. You can see that we're already 100% of that. But we did do an extensive trimming of our new trees on Post Oak Boulevard. And so some areas might be a little hot. But if you have questions or want some explanation in particular, I'm open for that. As you look at that, the second page, page 7, is looking at our capital fund where we have bond proceeds and we're doing more infrastructure type projects or intense capital related. You can see where the budget was and kind of where we are year to date. I'll just say at the end of the balance, ending fund balance, we're projecting for the budget to spend most of that and have $300,000 left over. You can see where we are now is roughly $6.2 million. If you look at the items that we're budgeted for, we have a little bit more to go on Post Oak Lane to complete that project, and a little bit more to finish out paying for pedestrian pylons, as well as what we have budgeted for the new intersection ring. So once those things are fully on, then that would expend the balance of our capital proceeds.
What does it cost for the Christmas tree to go in and out?
In and out,
Install them, then you take them out, then you store them.
yeah, that is, roughly, what was that?
The total cost, was it 300?
It's roughly
For
300,000.
the stars,
For the stars
the
and
trees
the
in, trees out. First year, didn't get a lot of folks that were interested in it. We think we'll be looking more at competition. And so, but I think the stars were about 100 of that and 2 for Christmas
And actually,
trees in
that
and out.
last year when we did with the stars, and there are 1,000 stars on all those pedestrian pylons, we paid about 140.
Just
So
put
when
them
you-
on and take them off?
Put them on and take them off. So when you think about, we did all of the stars and these new
And it's
obelisks.
also maintaining it during the holidays, so if a light blows a transformer, whatever, they're out there on a nightly basis fixing.
Yeah, because I was just looking,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but, which we know I am, but, does it make sense to keep the trees out there all year? Just don't turn the lights on? They're beautiful. Just don't turn the lights on and turn on only during the holidays and you save $200 grand.
My guess is the useful life of the tree would not be as long.
Yeah, I don't know that my electronics would take it, but, I mean, I've had phone calls that said, why don't you leave them up, and why don't we just do a different lighting and all that? I'll tell you that, I probably, hopefully, we wouldn't do that. I understand the expense, but it is almost the changing. If you leave them out all the time, they just get where you don't
I
notice
agree.
them. But it is an expense. It is, and it will be an ongoing, it has historically been an expense. So we've always spent money for that kind of, to put the trees in and out, warehouse space, et cetera. And the thing is, we have 3 times as many trees going all the way from the West Loop down to Richmond. And then we never had the stars on 1,000 pedestrian lights. And there's just a lot of manpower to take those in, put those out, maintain them and put them back up. But you could leave them out.
We ran the lighting along last time when we got the trees. We decided to leave them up year round, but then we spend thousands of dollars fixing the stuff that gets people messing with each other. So I don't know if we come out ahead or not.
I mean, it's
always
nice,
a little bit less noticeable than the big trees.
I mean, it's nice to put them away and then when it comes out, it's like, oh, now it's the holiday time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get that, it's a lot of money to take them out.
You're gonna have to,
store 'em.
if you're gonna do the stars on the area of the 1,000 headlights, you're gonna spend a third of that money.
No, I was thinking take the stars down, but keep the trees up.
And so
Spend
you're gonna
100
spend,
instead
you're
of
gonna spend 100, and then, yeah. I mean, it's conceivable. I don't think it would be good for them. They weren't designed, they're certainly designed for hurricane winds and everything else, but just a lot of wear and tear being out. There's a lot of wear and tear picking them up, putting them up.
So they're seasonal, they're not evergreen.
They're deciduous, right?
They're deciduous.
So, we could do it. I would look for other savings.
Okay. It was just a thought.
All right.
Good thoughts.
Thank you. Are there other questions or concerns?
If not, the next item, Stephen, if you could take us through consideration of the appointment of a board member and consider adopting a resolution of appointing a new director of Harris County Police District.
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is responsible for making appointments to this board. So what you have before you on page 10 is a resolution requesting that they appoint Ms. Sunchild to this board and finding that she's qualified to serve. She is. The Uptown Development Authority and Voters took action last month to appoint her as an agent for the purpose of serving on this board, which makes her qualified. So if it would be the board's pleasure to approve this resolution, she will, her name will be submitted to the TCEQ, and hopefully within 6 months, they'll have an answer at a new board meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor? Motion carries. And our last item is to receive an update on projects found under tab 3. And that's John?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Delio, what's the order? Is it Parks or? Parks first? Andrew, so this board has, less to do with the Memorial Park projects than does the TERS. But we thought you would find it interesting to get an update on what's going on, in our efforts to develop projects within Memorial Park. And Andrew Jarrett on our staff is gonna lead you through a short presentation. Do you need?
Oh, I thought you had to.
Okay, I think I have it. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm gonna run you through three projects: the land bridge, which is the bigger one of the three, Eastern Glades and Sports Complex, which are ongoing in construction as we speak. The land bridge, we're calling it the Central Connector. This is Memorial Drive. We're gonna put 2 land bridges in, 2 tunnel sections, new prairie, new connectivity to Buffalo Bayou, and new amenities throughout the park, and improve the drainage. So we're looking towards Uptown, kind of above the east side of the golf course in that view. So we're 33 months away from that. Currently, we've got a prime contractor on board, the construction manager at risk, Telipson, is doing the construction, or gonna do the construction. We've given them $20,000 to begin the project. And their pre-con services will go from now till May 2020, and then our notice, the bigger one for the boards will be in July for construction.
Just to interrupt, I don't want it to mean Andrew's $20,000 wouldn't buy you very much. Basically, through the TERS program where we went through a very detailed and involved bidding process and selection process, that task was as expensive as $750,000 for a couple of the proposals. And Tillotson basically said, we want this project, and gave us a financial offer that we couldn't refuse.
They were actually $1 million under our initial budgets.
How much is the cost for the land bridge?
I'll get to that, but 70.4 million in this project, 40.4 million is through MPC and the Kinder Foundation, and 30 is through UDA. Currently, notice to proceed, we're, Telipson's assisting us with 100% review of the design development. We've developed a baseline cost estimate. The CenterPoint Fork folks, of course, on the electrical, subcontractor procurement, which is, we've been doing a lot of, and I've been working with Stephen on the legal ends of that. And then we're looking at a new pricing package due late January. To take one step back, so the end, I like to begin with the end in mind, so the ending date of this project, substantial complete, is October 2022, so we're 33 months.
Andrew, I think you and Dave may have, could you explain commence 12/23?
The new pricing package we're working on now started on December 23rd, and then we'll have it.
What year?
This year, 2019.
Thank you.
And then it's due the 28th of January. Good question. So right now, we're pre-qualifying contractors, subcontractors to Telipson. Telipson's running the process. January 31st, all the pre-qualification folks will have submitted there. We will review their qualifications, and then we'll select from there who is pre-qualified on all the subcontractors. We'll go out to bid then with the RFP packages, the proposal packages, in mid-February. These are the items we're looking at for the subcontractors: typical safety, financial, commercial, the experience in these types of projects, key personnel.
So what you're telling us is that all the subcontractors to Telipson have to be pre-approved, and then they bid, And Tillotson may bid on items, but they have to bid at arm's length, and we get the bids.
That's correct. We open those sealed bids and we select. And that's exactly what this goes through. RFPs sent to each pre-qualified. They'll bring back, the big thing here is the NWBE. We've got a 20% target for this project. The hard costs are estimated to be 54 million, so we're estimating 10.8 million or more for the NWBE. Subcontract selection won't be based solely on price, but on the best value. At the end of all this, we'll work with Tillotson to put a guaranteed maximum price together. And that'll be somewhere in the late May, early June timeframe. So here's your 70.4 million we just discussed, 54 million hard, 10.8 soft with contingencies. We've got about 70.4, again, the breakdown, 40.4 MPC and the Kinder Foundation, 30 million UVA. Pricing, these are the pricing, we were at 54 million, it crept up in August to 56, 58, and now we're working it back down. We'd like to be in the 54, 55 range for our guaranteed maximum price. Expenditure status, we spent 2.7 last, 2.8 last year. We're predicting about 5.7 this year, and then the rest, here's our expenditure curve for the entire project. And these will be where we release our retention. Schematic design development, we're completed under budget. This is an expenditure status of the soft cost. Expenditure status tracking again. We've been running continuously under budget. So here's the budgeted line, and here's our actuals.
One of the questions Jonathan leaned back and asked, it's a pretty significant project. It's a significant project in terms of total capital cost. Can you give us a background about what portion of that $54 million right now in capital is in the tunnels? What's in the landscaping? You have those numbers?
The
Did you
tunnels
bid?
and concrete are about 13, 14 million. The landscape, about the same. And then the amenities throughout. And then earthworks about,
13.
yeah.
What amenities? What are the amenities?
We'll have some bathroom type structures, but they're more for lookouts,
But-
parking lots.
The numbers you just gave me were basically, that number gets all the high 30, almost 40 in three things. In the concrete for the tunnels, in the earthwork, and in the landscaping plan. And then beyond that, you're looking at trails, et cetera.
Yeah.
The hardest part about this whole job is probably getting the prairie to actually take hold and grow, because it's a pretty delicate environment, so. It is,
It's hard to grow what was naturally occurring before man arrived.
believe it or not, it's almost impossible to make it grow.
That's awesome.
It's almost
It's
impossible.
just hard to imagine that a land bridge would cost over $7 million. Just,
Oh, it's not just a land bridge.
no, I know.
But you pull 15 million out of that of soft cost in contingency,
Right.
so you're down, in 50, 54, as he said.
Building a new street too.
Well, we're actually moving Memorial Drive to the south also. Is another.
Yeah, that makes.
Well, because you kind of can't, you gotta keep Memorial Drive open.
That's right.
So the only way to do it is to move it and
Yeah.
build it and then go back and
Yeah.
reclaim it.
Yeah.
There's 500,000 cubic yards of dirt, so it's a significant effort. We're recutting the channels for drainage, so
It is,
there's a lot of stuff going on here.
and it's been beat on enough that it probably costs this, because we're working real hard to keep it at that price, and it keeps wanting to grow. And it's growing not because of soft costs, it's growing because of moving dirt, pouring concrete, and the landscaping on top of it. Go ahead and pick up from there.
Good question. Pre-construction activities, city permits, the bidding process and the awarding. One thing here we may want to do early is award precast concrete to the Bevo, which is a system for the arches that go in the tunnel to meet the current schedule. We may want to do a procurement and set the contracts in March, April, potentially. We've been talking about those, so that's what that's about. And then the main thing here to finalize, the guaranteed maximum price. I'm sure everyone's somewhat familiar, but that locked Tillotson into a number.
When would we see construction, dirt moved, trees felled?
Next slide. Construction on site in July. We'd like to start clearing maybe earlier in June, but we're still working on that. But construction on site, July of this year. Memorial Drive goes from 6 lanes to 4. We closed the southern, which is the westbound lane, or the eastbound lanes, and moved, add a lane on the north side. That saved us about $2 million instead of building a temporary Memorial Drive and then going back to it.
So August of 2021?
Yes.
Tillotson's already doing the golf course work, aren't they?
Tillotson is doing Eastern Glades Phase 2.
And he'll talk about this.
Okay.
Can we jump ahead to that?
Sure. So currently what's going on out there is Eastern Glades Phase 2. UDA did Phase 1, which was this one, adding the infrastructure, parking, and currently now Eastern Glades Phase 2, which Tillotson's working on right now. So here's a view kind of from Crestwood looking towards Uptown from the northeast side. New lakes, beautiful tie-in with the SLT. There'll be a Blossom entry coming from Crestwood on the east side. New pavilions. The main thing to remember here is we're on schedule here. The big thing is the opening probably in June of this summer. And then the sports complex, so to be able to build the land bridge, you gotta move the softball field, baseball field, rugby fields up. So we're moving those fields to the northeast side of Memorial Park. So I-10 was there, Crestwood's there, and we're putting in the new parks, the new fields on the northeast side.
Where would the current, where would Bex Prime be in this photograph, pointing in general direction?
That's a good question. I-10 is here, so Bex Prime would be here. Rugby field's here. Again, it's on budget, on schedule completion, I'm thinking April of this year, March, April.
All right, any questions or anything? Okay, Robert, you wanna do your thing? Yeah,
Can you do so?
Sure.
The boulevard is done except for the area down again south. Are we doing a fly-through or not?
We are. It's nice.
This is the different sections, and the Northwest Transit Center is a metro project that we just led, and it's gonna be complete by December of 2020. This is fall class, redoing the whole transit center, but it'll be operational with temporary boarding areas throughout the process. Same thing for the connection from where TxDOT started, and Metro has to reach down Post Oak Road to connect it to their area of structure.
If I could interrupt Robert just a second. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago, it was one of those, once every 5 years, really great things happen. We had TxDOT in the room, we had Metro's, we had the head of TxDOT in the Houston region, and we had Tom Lambert, the CEO of Metro, and went over which really are 8+ revenue operation projects that make up this corridor. And as you can see, everything else is coming on at the end of this, at the end of the first quarter. But the two pieces up north, I'll give you real quick. Metro has a workaround. They have a temporary facility that's operational now, and we'll be able to operate when we begin revenue operations without a lot of problems. The piece from Oakford, it's actually, we'll see in the aerial in a minute, is rebuilding portions of Old Katy Road, basically from the I-10 down to almost Memorial. And Metro has a December 20 date. They really sort of brought that conscious and realizing that during construction to be one lane in each direction. If you can imagine the peak hour, how bad that would be, and what impact it would have on overall bus operations. Metro has gone back and these dates we hope to get an update that they're gonna try to find some way to get their lanes in a much faster schedule. They have Raytech doing that work, and we're very familiar with that group. But I just wanted to give a sort of a backup of what that December 20th date's really all about. Robert, go ahead.
Right, the first two again, then that's Metro, then we have the West Loop dedicated bus lanes, which is the state, and we have the project that we've completed, but we're also working from Fairdale, where the state interrupted our construction on the south end to West Park Street. They're doing portion south of Richmond, we're doing the portion north of Richmond right now, completing it. So what we have to do is get the bus lanes in and the stations and all the amenities associated with the stations. They've completed the northbound and southbound lanes enough to keep traffic flowing on the outside. So we have the area inside to work in, and we are doing so, except for when it rains. And that will be the Richmond stations too, in March. Then we have the transit center, which is going to be substantially complete at the end of the month, which is a contractual term that they'll use, and then we'll have a punch list to finish off in 60 days after that. But Weber did a great job so far and has proved out. We're going to have to schedule a walkthrough with Metro and all parties in early February to make sure that their punch list is to everybody's satisfaction, and we can get them out of that job.
Metro and its contractor are now installing communications equipment, conduit, and other things and building is.
We have the elevators that are installed, but they're not tested out and commissioned by the inspectors yet. So but we're pretty close to getting complete on that project. And the Metro Communications is basically all the jobs basically from 610 south. We are putting the main line fiber to carry all the Metro data, as well as we got city data, and we have our own fiber in there. But Metro needs all that fiber in so that they can connect their cameras, their fare box readers, and things of that nature to operate. So that is a very important part, is to get all the links, the empty ducts ready to pull regular fiber. It's all under contract and it's going to schedule at this point.
I guess you read newspaper articles, and I want to tell you, decipher, I think, all that slide shows right there, is that for the first time, TxDOT is committed to a March 31 substantial completion of both the West Loop dedicated bus lanes from Memorial down to Post Oak Boulevard, as well as south of Fairdale, or it's basically Richmond to West Park Street. And so that big achievement, we are in great shape on our pieces. Robert's, our job is to build the last two stations and some of the fiber on the south end. We're all working toward a March 31 date along with TxDOT and getting that piece finished. And then we're continuing to work with Metro on the top two pieces. Metro wants 90 days to do testing up and down the corridor. I'm not familiar what you have to go through to test bus service for 90 days, but they're pretty committed on that, and so that would put us beginning revenue operations about the middle of July 2020. Debbie, I'm gonna let you and Robert fly this through here.
So the last time we looked at that, the structure there for the canopies for the transit center are Uptown and it's taking shape, but that again is not due till December of 2020 to be completed in operation. Their temporary operation is to the left of that open circle area, and this would be the second piece from the transit center down to where TxDOT started. They're going to basically put a new pedestrian crossing of I-10 and therefore be able to get enough lanes in to have continuous northbound, southbound lane to feed into the northbound, southbound lane that TxDOT is constructing. And a traffic signal at the end of their construction, at the end of the green area right there. That will control the cars or the buses coming in and out at that point. So, you want to speed it up? Yeah, when we've seen the aerial construction, the railing is on. To that. But they're working again down south underneath Post Oak Boulevard is where the remaining work is really being done. They've got the U-turn in, they're building the underground drainage and all the electrical stuff that's been going this month. And I believe they can get this all done by March 31st.
All right.
He's getting good, isn't he? Watch
Oh,
this, and then he backs up underneath.
That's crazy.
How does one get this job?
They had messed up traffic northbound on Post Oak earlier last week. We're trying to do the raised median in the middle there, which they now have the curbs on and they're ready to go. Post Oak has been completed there in this section. I believe we're going to probably pull out the orange barriers. We've moved them out, as you can see, I think on that one. See if the rest of them, what day do we fly this?
Yesterday.
Who does this?
We pulled them
Who
out.
flies this?
The company is called Uvoxel.
I'd love their card.
And buses were in it the other day,
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
testing, I guess, or just doing a photo op. I saw cameras. But we're done, except for a little landscaping efforts that we will continue to have.
It's like just yesterday, we were talking about how to extend the arches.
This is the electrical contractor. He's putting in what they call the emergency blue light phones that they need at a station. And that's part of the Metro SC&C program, the surveillance and security program that we're implementing for them. And that guy's pulling in a traffic signal box for some reason, I don't know. Does the drone need a moment?
Catch his breath.
You have to be within sight distance of your drone, and I think sometimes the chase car gets caught at an intersection.
We've reported some anomalies with the traffic signal timings that we have gone, and I believe the city is out there tweaking it. They will want to do in the March timeframe a new timing program that will.
How's your efforts going to stop the jaywalker right there?
Largely, if we had a east door at Neiman's closed, it would help.
Yeah,
I don't know what fire safety thinks about that.
So
Well,
again,
Can you put a railing on the sidewalk?
We,
yeah, they climb over.
but you can't put the railing through the driveway, and that'll just.
That's where
create
they're
everybody to the
crossing.
driveway to cross.
where.
Well, and then you
where the
go
left-hand
internal,
turns.
then you follow the driveway in for this?
It's, Delia, can you back up just a second?
That's just what I saw in your.
So what's happening, Robert, they're really, we have them fenced off on the Dillard side, and so they're coming down here where the left-hand turns are.
Your fences are in the middle, I'm talking about outside edges.
Yeah, but you still have to have this
No, our
driveway
fence
open
is on
and
the
this
Dillard
driveway
side.
open.
But they have, where the cars come out, that's where our left-hand turn is, and that's where the majority of the people are crossing. But when Metro, we are on it, we'll put, if we thought a fence on the Dillard, on the Neiman Marcus sidewalk, we'd do it in a second. But all they're doing is come to the end of that fence, just like the Art Dillards, and walking across
Walking
at the
around there.
left-hand turn. And there's no pedestrian crossing there.
Looks okay.
And when they do that, there's gonna be a bus coming.
For left turn cars.
Yeah. So, I don't know what the long-term issue is, resolution is yet.
I guess if you have an unscathed, well, you still have the turn lane, don't you?
Yeah, and we have signs that say no and tell you where to go, and, you know, they at least haven't pushed the signs over.
So again, part of the text up work is, stop here a minute, is they get the retaining field, they're working, the connector provides them access to bring in dirt and finish off the retaining wall that connects into the structure for southbound ramp there. So they're completing that area, that should be done by end of March, that work.
Just
They've got,
clarify something. If you were ever on West Alabama or in Westheimer and you drove down the frontage road and you wanted to take that Hidalgo exit and turn onto Post Oak Boulevard, that time has passed. TxDOT has closed that from now on. And so if you make a right-hand turn on the frontage road at Westheimer, you're gonna go to 59 inbound or outbound or 610 south. You're not gonna get back on Post Oak Boulevard.
How do you get to Richmond? Is there still
If you're on the freeway and you take the Richmond Hidalgo exit, it comes down. But the frontage road, the people using Westheimer or even coming from inside the loop, making a left-hand turn, running down the frontage road and turning right on Hidalgo, that's gone.
so this is our construction now that they've given us the middle. You can see these are toe walls going in that create the 4-foot medians that trees will go in to the south here.
Can you back up to Hidalgo?
Back up to Hidalgo.
Pretty please.
Okay?
Who's coming from the left?
That is someone exiting from the freeway.
That's the only way to get to that part of Hidalgo is if you exit the freeway.
That's correct.
Got it.
From the freeway, you can go north, south, or west. You can no longer come from the frontage road
Got it.
connected.
Okay?
So we're putting foundations in for the traffic signals at Fairdale, and TxDOT's contractor's doing it for Richmond. We're getting ready to put the traffic signals in. We're trying to complete the tow walls, and the bus lanes will come, and then the platforms will come, and then the stations will come after that. They're working south of Richmond. We've put the tow walls in for them. They'll put the rest in the bus lanes.
That's us working right there of the concrete truck, right?
Right.
Then you see the toe walls here. The toe walls hold up the roadway as well as hold back the roadway for our trees to be planted there.
And the rest of this area is part of the TxDOT work. Basically, the divided busway comes together into a undivided busway sliding through the columns here and up towards West Park and we'll tee into West Park, just east of the southbound frontage road right here. At this point, they use this signal, which is currently a temporary signal because of the construction going on, and they'll use it to get into and out of the West Park. Center lane. This is our work, stop if you can, stop.
We had
That's
more
our-
video footage, but concrete truck took it out.
This is our extra lane that we, our extra concrete that we put on West Park so that
That
we
here?
have enough width to deal with the continuous left turn for the buses, westbound into our site and eastbound into the bus lane. Over here, the roughed up dirt is where the conduit for the communication systems for Metro's communications, all the way from the transit center, all the way up north here to the north end, is, the pipe is in. We're working with Hectra to get permission to hang the pipe on the structure going over here, because you can't go under, because there's big boxes for drainage underneath it. That's our driveway that we just passed there, and this is now Rice.
We're turning.
We're gonna turn around.
There's our driveway into the facility. We, a temporary signal is waiting for the city to give us the programming for what goes into the signal and help us turn on the light, so we will have a temporary signal operating at that point in the next 30 days, 60 days. We're up on top, we've gotten the lights in now. We snuck in on the structure, T-ramp, some equipment that could do the work that's getting made.
Actually, we were scheduled and planned and approved and bought our lights, poles, and
Yeah, it
all the
was
transit
officially,
structure.
but quietly. No fanfare there. So, this work is getting close to being done, all the lights are hung, elevator structure is in the middle, cleaning up, electrical work is the critical path item that we're working on.
We are, we're planning, and we'll give you a future save the date on this, but we're planning somewhere around the 1st of April, bringing the board together and perhaps other big partners part of the project. And we want to kind of celebrate or let you experience it all the way from the Northwest Transit Center along the West Loop, Post Oak Boulevard, and then maybe have a dinner or some kind of event here on the Transit Center. I think the TERS board, one of the board members said that this board has carried a lot of the weight of this project, that as you go to dinner, you've had to explain the importance of it. And amongst your friends, family members, and others, total strangers. So we thank you for your leadership and your help in getting us where we are today. And I did have a question from a broker today who said, let me ask you, is it true that the lanes really aren't wide enough? And I said, no, the lanes are perfectly wide enough and have been measured. So we are now, we're where we have been trying to get for a couple of years, and we want to celebrate that. Metro's has their vehicle, they're running it up and down the boulevard, and yes, the trees have been trimmed long enough. Everything that you could ask, I think we have met those hurdles. We're now installing Metro's ticket vending equipment, or at least preparing the electrical and the conduit and all that. And that contract is actually going through the TERS, I believe. And but it's a commitment we made to Metro for amount not to exceed $5 million for that program. And I'm sure we'll probably spend $5 million. Robert, anything else you want to add? Anyone have a question?
Well, I think the project is sort of defending itself now as it reveals itself to the universe. The conversations I've encountered have been a lot more positive, and usually starts off with a compliment of the whole thing. So, and I think as you get further into operating it, that'll just continue to evolve that way. So, well done and congratulations. And it really is starting to be self-evident how valuable it is, and that's just great.
So John, I agree with all that. I think it's been amazing that it's gotten done, really. The constituencies that had to be brought
Yeah.
together in the very beginning that were very challenging, it's a testament to everybody.
There really are 8 projects that
Yeah.
go into making this.
What I was gonna ask though is, as the mode shifts to operations, do you feel like you're gonna be able to work with Metro to do some things to really encourage ridership?
We, Delia and Bob Effington are leading our effort as well as working with Metro. I wanna make it, Steve, so that John Breeding can use the system. I wanna make
Yeah.
it so that if Bob has to literally go through here and show people how to put the apps on their phones, I wanna do that. I think we're looking at a program of how can we get people out there on the system, you know? You may not know, and I may not know how to walk out there, walk up the ramp, and what is that little thing, and what are they gonna do to me? And, I mean, it's really bringing a market that has largely been unexposed to transit, and really take them through the really simple stuff about, it's okay, come out and try
It's
it.
funny because when I tell people the percentage of workers who work downtown that
Yeah.
actually take man, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, the response is, no, that can't be true. I said, well, okay, discount it by 50%, let's assume it's true. It's still a lot of people. So I guess starting with employers is sort of a natural place where you can accumulate a lot of people in one place. And I'd love to hear at a later meeting,
Okay.
maybe an update on
Would love
proposed ways of inducing people to try, because I think when they try it, it's gonna work.
You know, I sat in on a presentation this morning where investors were trying to talk a pension fund, developers trying to talk a pension fund into participating in a project. And they went through literally everything, and at the end of the meeting, I said, you know, the one thing that has been totally discounted here is the impact that transit can have. And I said, you know, if we're at 30 or 40% of the people that in some of the buildings downtown are using transit, I mean, we're looking at 8 to 10% would be a big success for us. And if that happens, it's a game changer. No other part of the city will be we will clearly be number 2 behind downtown, but we will be the second most accessible transit market in the region. We'll see how much we can attract, bring people off of the West Loop and that wonderful traffic out there, off of 290 and I-10 Southwest Freeway and others, as well as people that live inside and outside of Westheimer, Richmond, San Felipe, who can come in here, transfer, and go to work. So I think, Kendall, your point being, I think we built it physically, it looks great, people are accepting it, and there's kind of like, now, let's see how effective it is. And I think we're just gonna have to give it time to see how successful it is in terms of moving people. I have nothing else. Mr. Chairman, I think we're done.
We are adjourned, thank you.